Welcome to This Explainer on the Wealth Code, where we're going to dive right into what it actually takes to escape the rat race. To start, I want you to picture a highly cinematic scene. There is a blazing, overexposed sun just beating down on a 1950s Hawaiian schoolyard. On one side, you've got these wealthy kids stepping out of a glossy, chrome-detailed station wagon, just laughing, totally carefree. But on the other side, standing completely still by a rusted chain-link fence, is a 9-year-old boy named Robert. He's just watching them. And in that quiet moment, looking at that shiny car, a burning, almost obsessive desire to understand wealth is ignited. Kids are incredibly perceptive. Robert turns to his best friend Mike, both of them standing there in faded denim, and asks an incredibly vulnerable question. Are we poor? It drops us right into the middle of his sudden emotional realization. He's 9 years old, and it just clicks that there is a massive divide between the kids whose families own the local plantation stores and his own family. He wants answers, so he decides to go to the absolute smartest man he knows, his father.
And this sets up a classic tale of two dads. Imagine a dim, kind of amber-lit living room in the evening. Heavy shadows are stretching across the walls. Robert's father, who we'll refer to as Poor Dad, is sitting at his desk, and he just looks thoroughly, deeply exhausted. He is literally buried under this mountain of unpaid bills, financial ledgers, and academic grading papers.
When Robert finally asks him how to get rich, his exhausted father gives him the most traditional advice you can imagine. He says, focus on your books, get good grades, and you'll find a secure job with a pension. Poor Dad has this highly traditional, education-focused worldview. He honestly believes the love of money is the root of all evil. But there is a tragic irony here that little Robert notices almost immediately. Despite his dad's brilliant university degrees and his super secure government job, the family is stressed out, and they still struggle intensely with money every single month. Realizing he really can't teach his son about wealth, Poor Dad sends Robert to go talk to Mike's dad. Man, the contrast is just jarring. We move from the somber, rain-streaked window of Poor Dad's house straight into the world of Mike's dad, Rich Dad. And this guy operates out of a frantic, sunlit, totally unorganized warehouse office. Dust motes are dancing in the light, there's like a jazz bass line dumping in the background, and Rich Dad is sitting at a massive wooden desk, literally counting stacks of cash. He doesn't care about academic degrees at all. He only cares about how the real world actually operates. So, we arrive at the 10-cent lesson. The two boys sit on a worn leather couch in this chaotic office and ask Rich Dad to teach them how to make money. But surprisingly, Rich Dad flat out refuses to lecture them. He tells Robert that school teaches you how to work for money, and if they really want to learn how money works, they have to learn by doing. They have to come work for him in his sweltering convenience store. And then, Rich Dad drops the offer. 10 cents. Yep, 10 cents. That is their hourly wage. Robert is completely insulted. He actually stands up and calls it slave labor. No joke. But Rich Dad, he's as cold as ice. He tells them to take it or leave it, noting that while the regular world sits around complaining about low pay, the rich world adapts. Pushed right into a corner, Robert agrees to the deal. Let me tell you, the reality of that deal is absolutely grueling. Picture this. Cramped, suffocatingly hot grocery store. Harsh, fluorescent lights humming overhead. For 3 hours every single Saturday, Robert and Mike are just wiping down endless rows of identical, rusted cans of sardines. The physical toll is miserable. Sweat is dripping down Robert's forehead, burning his eyes, and that store clock, it ticks by excruciatingly slowly. All of that backbreaking effort just to earn 3 silver dimes a week. Which brings us to the crucial concept of escaping the rat race. See, 3 weeks later, Robert hits his breaking limit. He marches into the store, slams his 3 hard-earned dimes onto the counter, chucks his filthy rag in the trash, and bursts into Rich Dad's office in a righteous, burning fury. He accuses Rich Dad of exploiting a kid and lying about teaching him anything. But to Robert's absolute shock, Rich Dad isn't angry at all. He just lowers his financial newspaper, smiles calmly, and tells Robert that he now sounds exactly like a regular employee. Rich Dad stands up, walks over to this harsh-slit chalkboard in the office, and draws a frantic little mouse running endlessly inside a circle. Robert's anger suddenly dissolves into absolute clarity. He remembers his own father staring blankly at those unpaid bills. Staring at that mouse on the board, Robert asks a desperate, profound question: how do you break out of the circle? Rich Dad points right at the board and explains that this circle is the rat race. It's a continuous cycle driven entirely by 2 powerful human emotions: fear and desire. Think about it. The fear of having no money forces you to wake up and go to work. But once you get that paycheck in your hands, the emotion of desire kicks in, convincing you to buy things you honestly don't actually need. Then what happens? The money runs out, the fear returns, and you start the exact same exhausting cycle all over again. Robert asks how on earth to escape, and Rich Dad just snaps his chalk, wiping the frantic mouse away. In its place, he draws two stark, life-changing columns on the board. This right here is where the core mechanics of the wealth code are fully revealed: assets versus liabilities. Let's start with the first column, the asset. His definition is beautifully, almost aggressively simple. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. Period. End of story. He explains that the rich don't just work for paychecks. They buy assets. They acquire real estate, stocks, and businesses. They build systems that generate wealth automatically, whether they are physically clocking into work that day or not. The second column is a liability. And this is defined as something that takes money out of your pocket. Now, this leads to a massive paradigm shift for Robert. He brings up his poor dad's beloved house, completely assuming it's an asset. But Rich Dad, gently yet firmly, corrects him. He explains that while the house might be a beautiful dream for his father, financially speaking, it's a liability. It drains cash out of his pocket every single month in mortgages, taxes, and maintenance. Armed with this completely new analytical way of looking at the world, Robert and Mike return to the dusty convenience store the very next Saturday. But something is profoundly different. They aren't just staring down at those rusted cans of sardines anymore. Their eyes are sharp. They are scanning the room, actively looking for opportunity instead of just scrubbing shelves as mindless employees. They are about to build their first business empire. And then boom, the cinematic spark of realization happens. Robert notices a distributor worker systematically ripping the front covers off unsold comic books and throwing them into a discard box. Robert steps right up and asks what happens to the rest of the book. The worker just shrugs, says they are thrown away, and tells the kids they can keep them as long as they don't try to resell them in a store. Robert and Mike lock eyes. In that beautifully lit moment, they know exactly what they are going to do. They haul a wagon absolutely overloaded with these discarded comics back to Mike's house. What follows is this fast-paced, highly energetic transformation of Mike's cluttered, dark basement. They don't just dump the books on the floor, oh no. They scrub the brick walls clean until dust flies out into the sunshine. They hammer old planks together to build sturdy bookshelves. They stack hundreds of these colorful, coverless comic books neatly by title. They are physically building an asset. They turn the basement into a vibrant library sanctuary with a brilliant loophole. See, rather than selling the comics, which they promise not to do, they charge a 10-cent admission fee. Mike's younger sister sits at a makeshift desk at the top of the stairs, collecting dimes from a line of excited neighborhood kids. Down in the basement, kids are reading as many comics as they want for 2 straight hours. Meanwhile, Robert and Mike sit at a table in the back, overseeing their packed reading room, not as laborers, but as true young executives. At the end of the week, the real magic happens. Mike's sister brings a heavy tin box to their table. The lid pops open to reveal the shimmering mountain of shiny silver dimes. Robert just stares at it, the silver reflecting in his wide eyes. When he asks how much it is, Mike counts it up and reveals a staggering weekly profit for 2 kids, $9.40. Robert plunges his hands into the cold coins, listening to the chime of the metal. He looks over at Mike, and with this profound sense of awe, he whispers, "We didn't work for this money, Mike. The business worked for us." They hadn't scrubbed shelves for this. They had used their minds to capture an opportunity, build a system, and successfully create passive income. They had created a real asset. Now, picture Robert walking completely alone on a pristine Hawaiian beach at sunset. The sky is this gorgeous deep purple and fiery orange. In one hand, he holds his poor dad's worn academic textbook. He looks at it with deep, undeniable love and respect for his father's values. But in his other hand, he firmly grips that cold metal tin box containing his business profits. He's literally holding the weight of true financial freedom. He respects both worlds, but he now knows exactly which path he must walk. Looking out at that vast, darkening ocean, the confusion he felt weeks ago at the playground is completely gone. It's totally replaced by absolute certainty. He finally understands the core of the wealth code. The poor work for money. The rich make money work for them. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look at the systems you are building in your own life. Look at the columns you are filling. Ask yourself, are you endlessly scrubbing shelves in the rat race? Or are you looking for the discarded comic books? Are you working for money? Or are you making money work for you? Take that question with you.